Good morning, everyone. So thank you for joining us today. It's great to see so many of you turn up for the live session. This is the first of 5 that I've managed to rope Anne into doing. If you're joining us for the first time, Ndevr are the largest team of skilled JD Edwards consultants in the Australia, New Zealand region. And our team are dedicated to delivering unparalleled support, training and innovative solutions that will help you stay ahead of this ever-evolving technological landscape. We are a full-service consultancy delivering implementations, upgrades, training, support, development, CNC services, managed services and code currency management for those on the latest release. And this year we celebrate 25 years of delivering those services to the Australian and New Zealand JD Edwards community. This is the first of 5 sessions that we're running, so it's going to be a really big 3 weeks for Anne. She's a highly regarded JD Edwards specialist with more than 25 years under her belt. She's a sought after trainer and consultant by our customers and of course is an excellent presenter. Anne, would you mind switching to the next slide, please? Today she's going to be showcasing enhancements to JDE financials and capital asset management. Then on Thursday, she's going to show you what's new in procurement and order management. Then next week, Oracle are running a local Applications Unlimited event, which is going to run from the 2nd to the 4th of August, and Anne is going to be one of the presenters on this. And then on the following week, which is August the 8th, 10th and 11th, Anne's going to be presenting what's new in manufacturing on the 8th, UX enhancements on the 10th, and digital transformation on the 11th. So all of these sessions are going to be recorded. We'll also send the slides out to you, and questions are welcome but will be addressed at the end. So without any further ceremony from myself, I'm going to hand it over to you now, Anne.
Thanks, Sasha. Okay, so what I'm going to take you through today is just the enhancements to Release 23 specifically. I'm going to switch my camera off because it's a bit distracting to me. So I'm going to show you the enhancements for Release 23. Now, note that they're only the net changes between Release 22 and Release 23. So there were a lot of enhancements between 9.1 and 9.2 or Release 22. So those are not covered in here, although I might touch on 1 or 2 of them just by default. But this is purely from Release 22 to Release 23, those changes. So let's take a quick look at them. And as Sasha mentioned, you can get these slides after the event, and you will notice that on each one of these enhancements, I've added a link to the product catalog that will take you to Learn JDE, where you can get all the detailed information, including setup information, sometimes an Oracle by example, tutorials, and so on for each of these enhancements. So just a little link there to Learn JDE. So let's take a look. The first one, which I will demonstrate to you as well, is the address book map. So what Oracle did previously was they provided a map for real estate management, a property map. And a lot of the customers said, that's very nice, but can we do the same on the address book? So that's what they did. They've given us an address book map, and I'll take you through that and show you how it works and how it fits together. A very simple little enhancement here on allowing the attachments per company or per line of business on the customer master. Prior to this, you could only have 1 attachment per customer on the customer master. So it would effectively be the same for all customer master records. Now you can have 1 for each of the companies on the customer master. So you can attach, for example, if you have different contracts for each individual company, you could attach them to to their individual customer master records. This next one is to consider all of a user's roles when unmasking the bank account numbers. Really, this is basically just making sure that what you've got access to regardless of what other roles might have. So if you have access to the unmasked bank account numbers in any of your roles, it will consider that and show the unmasked bank account numbers. On joint ventures, there's another enhancement. Joint ventures, of course, has seen a lot of enhancements over the last while, and it's really looking like a very nice little module within the financials. And there are still enhancements going on for joint ventures. I'll show you the new base AR invoice print. That's now the additional fields that they've added there will hopefully mean that at least some of us can get rid of the customized R55 invoice print, because there should be enough information on the standard invoice print for us to work with. I'll show you an example of that. One of the things I hope to demonstrate today is this new workflow to approve vouchers. So this, I know that most of you have at some stage or another said, can we not have an approval process on for voucher entry, especially when invoices are entered directly into the system and don't come through procurement. Oracle have now delivered this workflow, and I'll take you through that and how we set it up and how it works. And in a similar way, they've added a workflow for the approval of bank account details as well. Hot off the press is this enhanced AR statistics history refresh. This is really for large data sets. I'm not sure that this will worry any of our customers that I know of, but really it's more of a performance thing, so that when you're processing large data sets, we don't have performance issues. And then the last one oh, hold on, that's not what I wanted to do. User error. Okay, the last one that I want to touch on is the capital asset management that optimized the maintenance of the work order display. So if you've got loads and loads of children assets for an asset and lots of work orders, you know already if you use this maintenance work order display, you know already that you can limit the number of records that you can update in a mass update at any one time. Well, this is sort of an extension of that, where you can also limit what you're displaying in the first place, and really it's just, again, from a performance point of view. All right, well, let's go and have a look at some interesting stuff. Let's see what we can do here. So you should now be able to see my JD Edwards screen. Okay, so you'll notice here, by the way, one of the enhancements that we've had recently, it's not in Release 23, it was before that, but one of the enhancements is this favorites. So everybody, I'm sure, uses the favorites bar down here, and you add all sorts of stuff to favorites. Well, now you can include those favorites on an E1 page, and as soon as you add anything to favorites, it will come up onto this E1 page as well. So it's just another widget or tile on the E1 page. Very nice, very, yeah, it makes us less and less reliable on this carousel panel on the side. Okay, but that's not what we're looking at the moment. What we're going to look at is this address book map. So first of all, I'll just show you the processing options behind it. So it's under daily processing in the standard menus. Under daily processing, you'll find an address book map. And if I look at the values here, I can set, of course, maximum number of addresses it will search, just so that we don't, it doesn't work forever. Again, a performance story. And then we can set the versions that the map will use for exits. So those are the two processing options. Right, let's have a look at the map itself. So I'll show you the slides in a moment once we've had a look at the map. What I'm going to do here, you can search for really any search type. So for example, I could look for customers, and if I hit the search button, it will show me all those customers where I've got a longitude and latitude values, geomap values set. In this case, I only have one, and it happens to be this Atrium Mall. But what I've done is I've also set up some employees. So if I go and search for the employees, this will make more sense. Now, this map, people are telling me that that they find this map very useful in a lot of ways. So for starters, for example, for customers, the salesman will use the map so that, let's say he's in a specific area and he's got a bit of spare time, he might go and see what other customers are available in that area, or they've got in that area that he might pop in and see, for example. Okay. Now, I see here I've got an employee in somewhere in the States there, and I've got also a whole bunch of employees in Australia. So let's say I'm only interested in the ones in Australia, and category code 2 I've got on the address book is set up for the country, for example. So I can now limit my search just to Australia. And using my mouse, I can zoom in and zoom out as I please. And so I've got all these people, and when I hover over them, it gives me some information on them. So there's an employee there. If I look over here, I've got various employees. And if I click on that employee, it will drop a pin, and it will give me information on that employee over here. If it was a customer, it would be giving me information on the customer from the customer master. I don't have any information here, but it would give me if those values were there. Also, if I've got an image attached, it would show it over here in this image over here. And from here, I've got various row options, so I can go to employee information, I can look at customers and supplier information, and so on. So I can drill down from my map as I see fit. Okay, so that is, there's just one, there's an information over here that just tells you a little bit more. It says the address book records with, I'm sure you can read it all. It's probably a bit small, but it says address book records without an image attachment will display a default image on hover. Address book records with valid latitude and longitude will be located. So anyone who doesn't have a valid latitude and longitude, of course, will not appear on the map. Okay. And to set up that latitude and longitude, there is a specific program that you run. So if I take a look at here, okay, so there are a few things you have to do to set up the map. The first is you go to this program here, P99410, and you set this enable location services to yes. So that has to be set to yes, first and foremost. And then secondly, you can run this application R01120, which will then take the addresses from your address file, from your FO101, your addresses, and find the latitude and longitude and update the latitude and longitude table. F0119 is that table. It's a new table, I think. And this particular load uses this Oracle Business Service JC01150 to load. So that's basically how the address book map works. I don't know if Sasha said, but please feel free to put in any questions into the comments, into the chat, and we'll address them as we go or at the end. Those attachments by line of business that I was talking about on the customer master, okay, it's set by a processing option in the customer master revisions, P03013 program. And basically you set this attachment by customer company to a 1. And then you can see here that for each company on the customer master, you can add attachments individually. If that is set to blank, you can only add an attachment to the customer once at one level, company 0 effectively. The additional fields on the base AR print, you will see that if you run our 03B505 XJDE4 version, that one has the additional fields on it. And you can see here I've highlighted what those additional fields are. These are the common ones that we always have to create a custom R55 03B505 for. Usually payment terms, the tax information, the sales document, which is quite handy as well, and then the tax ID, which of course is our ABN. That's usually where we store our ABN. So hopefully this will help you in that you in getting rid of the customized 55 invoice print program. Maybe, hopefully. Okay, let's take a look at the new workflow to approve vouchers. So basically what this is it's a workflow that will approve vouchers. Once the workflow is triggered, the pay status will be set to Y. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. Okay, will be set to Y, which is workflow in progress. And you can't make any changes to it until, sorry, you can't make a payment to it until it's changed to A. If the voucher is rejected, it will change the status to F, which is rejected. Okay, now let's go and have a look at this in more detail. So this one is quite nice to show. You should be back on my JDE screen. I'm going to close out of the map here, and we're going to do a little bit of signing in and signing out. So for starters, I just want to show you in the way you set this up is in P040047, which is the voucher entry master business function. So you can have the approval set for some versions of for some types of invoices and not set for others. It can be automatically approved for others. And it's simply a processing option here in the workflow tab, the last tab, and you set it to say 1, activate the voucher approval workflow. So that is activated for us in this version at the moment. So I'm going to go and enter a voucher here. And when I enter the voucher, right, let me enter, before I do that, let me just show you the other part of the setup. What you need to do is set up who's going to approve what. So I have a distribution list set up for approvers for voucher approval. It's called APV. Okay, and if I look, there's me and there's Richard is in there. If I take my user, I can see that I'm set up to, it's going to work against the AG, which is the gross amount, okay? If the gross amount is less than $10, the voucher would be automatically approved. If it's between if it's over $10 and more, user 1 and user 2 should be approving it. And if it's over $100, then user 3 should also have to approve it. Okay, so that's setting up the distribution list ready for approvals. Now let's go and see. I'm going to enter it. Enter a voucher. And I will enter one for company 1, supplier that. Invoice number is going to be one, for example. Pick the GL date and the invoice date, and I will put in an amount of $5. So this one I expect to be automatically approved. Let me enter another one. Same supplier, let's call it demo 2. And this one, I will enter an amount of $90. So this one, I'm expecting the first user to have to approve it and nobody else. And then let me enter a third one. I think you probably know where I'm going with this. I'm going to enter for $110. This one we're expecting to have 2 levels of approval on. Okay. H818711, just so that I can come back to it later. So now we see that the first one, that $5 one, has been automatically approved. And the other 2 are sitting with a pay status of Y, workflow in progress. If I go on the side here, I can go to manage notifications, and within there I can go to my message center. So I'm sure you are all aware of this actions up here, work with work center, and it's not very pretty. But this message center one is exactly that. It's the work center, but it's much nicer. So we can actually sort by queue or by date. We can do searches on it and so on. And it also shows quite nicely next to it. So here it tells me that that first voucher has been auto-approved. Okay, that voucher has been auto-approved because it was for $5. So let me sign out here. And I'm going to sign in as Fitz Test 1. He's one of the $10 approvers. And if I go to his message center, now I just want to mention that I'm working from the message center, but if you linked to your address to your email address, you would get an email with this message in it, the same as you do now on work centers. So in here, I have a message saying there's an approval request, please. So in fact, there are 2. There's this one here, which is for the $90, and then there's this one here for the $110, because he has to approve both of these before it moves on. So I will now approve the $90 one. Now simply click accept and OK. And I'm sure it's quite plain what's going to happen with the $110 one if I approved it, but let's not approve it. Let's reject this one. So if I reject that one, and then I sign out, and I'll sign back in as me and see what happened to those vouchers. Okay, lucky I wrote down that batch number, so I know what to enter here. And you see what we've got here. That one is still approved. This one is waiting for the other $10 guy to approve, and you can set the approvals, the distribution list, to say we only have to approve, only one person has to approve that in a list, in a group has to approve that invoice, or you can say everybody in the list has to approve it. Okay, so you've got that flexibility there as well. And so this is waiting for the second person to approve it. And the third one was rejected, and therefore the pay status was changed to F. And if I had my emails working, I would have got an email, but because I don't have my emails working, I'll look in the message center and I will see there is a message in here saying that that voucher has been rejected. As soon as I go into that voucher and make a change to it, let's make a change to it and say, can we spell properly? As soon as I make a change to this, it goes back into the workflow again for approval again, so it can go around again. So that's basically how the workflow approval works. And as you can imagine, the bank account number approval works in the same way. We also set up distribution lists, but with the distribution lists for the bank account, obviously there's no associated item and there's no threshold. It's irrelevant. So it's purely an approval process. I'm not going to take you through that. I'm sure you can all understand exactly how that would fit together. Okay, well, that is the approvals, and you'll see here in the slides that I've actually got a picture of the approval as it comes from Oracle, as it's delivered from Oracle. This is a workflow, a standard workflow in JD Edwards, and there is, excuse me, no reason why you can't change this workflow if you want it to work differently. And you can add bits into it if you wanted to, and yes, change the workflow if it doesn't quite suit your requirements. Okay. And the same with the bank account details. Here's the workflow. I know it looks quite messy, but it works. Okay. And again, you can add your own bits in or change this workflow as you see fit, because it's available to you. If I just show you how, if I go back to here, and I'll just log into the orchestrator just to show you that quickly. So in the orchestrator, we've got this workflow, and this one is called, well, let's look at the, I'll look at active workflows, and I'll look at the voucher approval one. So you can see that it's set here as approval. Now, what I can do is I can, the same as you could in the olden days on workflows, you can actually create a new version if you want. But what we do is you deactivate it. As soon as it's deactivated, it's not working on the system anymore. You can then make changes to it, reserve it, make changes to it. And once you're happy with all the changes, you can validate it and activate it again. And then your new, changed, updated workflow will be in play. And I'll just go to the one that's not active, which is if I can find it. Okay, let me go to all workflows, just so I can show you the sort of thing you can do within the workflow itself. So, right, so as you can see here, this one is now, it's reserved. It's not active and it's reserved, so I can make changes to it. And what I can do is I can insert in here info messages or action messages. So that approval is an action message. This is an info message. This is the one that told me that that the auto approve it happened. There's the reject message. You can see how the flow goes through. But you can also add in here any business function you can apply, or another orchestration. So you can get it to go off and do something completely different if you wanted to. So that's just a bit of a look at workflows, which now that they're within the orchestrator and we can actually do the workflows on the glass without the need for a fact client and for coding and all the rest of it, it makes it very nice for us to be able to use. Okay. Now there's one other thing, and that's the limit on the work orders. So basically what you can do is you set up this, and this, as I said before, was just for performance. You set up UDC PI, which is called paging improvement, and you say this is my limit. So for example, here I've said that in P48022, I've got a limit of 5 records. So if I were to then go into our standard equipment work order screen, and let me put in a parent, and I say display children, and I hit find, it says, which children do you want to display? And if I say I'll display them all, look, notice here it says maximum records to select at a time is 5. So I'm saying display them all. Obviously, 5 would not be your limit. This is a test system, so I don't have 700 to play with. So, but when I click select, it says, oh no, sorry, you can only put in 5 because that's the limit you've set. So I can pick 5 to work with. And here, those are the ones that are brought back to my screen for me to work with. And then I can maybe do a mass update on them or whatever else I need to do. So that's how that that order limit is set. And that's, as I say, purely for performance purposes. Right, well, that's all I have to say at this stage. Are there any questions? Anything?
And thank you for that. There was one question that came through. It says, are the longitude and latitude values in JDE still limited to those available via the Oracle Business Service? Are we able to manually add longitude and latitude values in JDE?
Well, that's a good question. No, yeah, you could say that they're limited to the JDE Business Service, but what I did in order to, and no, there is no stand, you can't manually add them. But what I did was I found an open API that could return, so a REST service effectively, that could return the latitude and longitude, and I built a little orchestration that can update that table. So you don't need to be limited to what Oracle provides. You can do it via an orchestration to upload, to update that table. Okay. As long as you can get the information, you can update it via an orchestration.
So on that note, we're going to call it a wrap, and we'll see a lot of you again on Thursday. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.